What's up, guys? Buckle up because you're about to enjoy an excellent Snaps game preview where we tell you everything you need to know about this weekend's game and probably some stuff that you didn't. Enjoy. Next game on the list, Ole Miss at South Carolina. And my, is this a fascinating game or what? Of course, as we just talked about, Ole Miss last week, we wanted to know how would the offense look, virtual test, specifically how would the offensive line look? The very thing that has held them back for years now, and they didn't do well. And now they got to go against what is a very, very good defensive line in South Carolina. Lenore Sellers is going to be healthy, Aaron. I know you had some questions about that. Pete Thamel said he is good to go. No injury designation even listed on the chart. I think Ole Miss wins the game because ultimately I think South Carolina is just too flawed offensively. Although I would have said the same thing about Kentucky, to be fair.
Yeah.
But
Kentucky was trending in the right way offensively.
Yeah. Also, we saw
Kentucky
control a game on the lines of scrimmage against Georgia, right? I saw in South Carolina's best game against LSU this year, or maybe it's against Kentucky, actually, right? But against LSU, I saw a defense that second half that, despite being very could not get off of the field. And I think Ole Miss's offense is probably still slightly better than LSU's here.
It comes down to for Kentucky, I would have loved to see if Lenore Sellers was healthy a week ago or 2 weeks ago before the bye, and he went out versus Akron and started to work out some of the kinks.
Yeah.
And the fact that he hasn't played in 2.5 weeks, to me, is a little bit concerning. And yeah, you love the fact that he's healthy heading to this game. But this is an Ole Miss defense, and I know you don't love this stat, but it's a really good defensive line. The personnel is there.
I'm going to counter this.
I know you're going to counter this, but the personnel does warrant a little bit of respect when it comes to the numbers of what they're doing defensively. This D line is giving up, 50-something yards per game, number one rush defense in the SEC, 46 yards. And Brock last week, running quarterback, only had 3 yards rushing. I know you count sacks too. I know sacks go into it, but still did not have a lot of yards rushing. They stayed on the field because he made some completions with his arm.
The D-line is they're really, really good at rushing the passer. Jared Ivey and Princely Umami-Ellen's one of the best combos, maybe the best pass rushing. Well, actually, Dylan Stewart and Kennard would also be up there. So I mean, you're looking at two epic edge tag teams from South Carolina and Ole Miss. All I'm saying is the rush defense is not actually 46 yards a game good. They lead the SEC in sacks. They have 18 sacks for minus 134 yards, which is very good in its own right. But Kentucky did control that game by running the ball enough and staying on schedule. 3 yards a pop, 4 yards a pop. So
but Brock also was Brock was also very accurate on critical downs throwing the football.
Yeah.
Can Lenore's be accurate throwing the football to receivers that are nowhere near the caliber that Kentucky had?
No, I mean, to be fair, I think that is the difference. Kentucky showed a consistency that I even think they would find hard to replicate if you played that game again. Maybe not, because they kind of did it against Georgia. But they showed a consistency that I think a South Carolina team is still just a little too flawed.
They have no weapons on the outside. I mean, Mazio Bennett's a true freshman.
South Carolina's offensive line is not good. I don't think so, at least.
No, but we weren't saying Kentucky was world beaters at the offensive line either, though. Surprising. I know they look better versus Georgia, but maybe we have in our mind from a couple weeks.
Kentucky's line has been pretty good, right? I mean,
they got killed by South Carolina. They got destroyed by South Carolina.
But I know now we're deep into law, transit, sports properties. Yeah. But again, that is a South Carolina D line that I think is right there with Tennessee and Ole Miss as the best ones in the SEC.
I'm just saying, there's not a weapon right now that Lenore Sellers, who hasn't played a real game in near 2.5, 3 weeks, feels comfortable throwing the football to. Jared Brown, who needs to ball out, who needs to get targets more, is probably their best receiver. Nick Harbor, the 5-star, only has 4 catches on the season. There is just nowhere to have trust. They are very, very one-dimensional. And I think Ole Miss is good enough at all 3 levels to eat them up. This is the game to me. It comes down to, can Ole Miss's offensive line grow enough in 1 week? I don't think it is. I think this is a low-scoring game. I think South Carolina at home the crowd with those two defensive ends you talked about can keep it close, but I just don't know if South Carolina can get enough on offense to win the game.
KMC saying, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a lack of consistency offensively, especially against an Ole Miss team that I don't think you're going to be able to achieve the insane ball control that Kentucky did. KMC says Vandergrift's been pressured in nearly 50% of his dropbacks, and O-line's not good. They're good run blockers. I will say that. I like how they ran it against Georgia. I like how they ran against Ole Miss. They're not the best pass blockers. Then again, they have gone against some very good pass rushing defensive lines. I think I will say, like, I don't think South Carolina's O-line's that good. I think Ole Miss's D-line with South Carolina, if they get an obvious passing downs, I think Monmiel and Ivy are going to really eat here. For me, though, let's take a step back from the analysis, because for me, I just question Ole Miss's toughness after last week. You play such an easy schedule. You finally get an okay game at home, not a super hard game, but a step up in competition. You get punched in the mouth and you fucking fold like one of those badass rocking chairs that I bring to my daughter's soccer games. Like, it was so fucking sad how there was just no response there, and they allowed themselves in their own stadium to be dictated to. And now you got to go to a Williams-Brice. It's going to be loud and going to be fucking insane. 2:30 in the afternoon, perfect weather. Crowd's going to be locked into the entire time. Like, Ole Miss on paper should win this game and should win it handily. But I have insecurities now because of the complete and utter lack of toughness showed last week.
I agree. Also, like, path to success for South Carolina, obvious. Lenora Sellers gets 5 or 6 rushing first downs. I mean, if you have to take the blueprint that Kentucky had versus Ole Miss, and you have to completely do the same thing. 40 minutes of possession time to 20 minutes possession. You have to double that up. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Because I think South Carolina is
easier.
It's so easy. So, because I will say that South Carolina's defense, I would take over Kentucky's defense, especially being at home. So if you give Ole Miss less possessions on the road against that defense, there's a chance. But yeah, you have to have that recipe. But then it comes down to Lenora. Can Lenoris get 4 or 5 first downs, if not 6, with his legs to extend the drives and eat up the clock?
I have a fun Ole Miss South Carolina anecdote that I learned today when reading about this game. The last time Ole Miss visited South Carolina would have been September 24th, 2009. I believe this was year 1 of Steve Spurrier, but Ole Miss came in ranked 4th in the country. Okay. But Williams-Brice is ready. Crowd's going crazy. South Carolina actually ends up winning the game 16-10. But at the end of that game, it's been 16-3 the whole time. South Carolina allows a busted play. Ole Miss makes it 16-10. Ole Miss gets the ball back. And in the middle of a timeout before a 3rd down late in the 4th quarter, the DJ decided to play Sandstorm. And it had been played in the stadium before, but there was something in the air about the mixture of the hype, the 4th-ranked team on the ropes, big 3rd down. They played Sandstorm. ESPN did not go to commercial. I wish I could show you the video, but I want to get copyright strike. ESPN did not go to commercial, and it was just one of those magic moments. The crowd's losing their fucking mind. The players are losing their fucking mind. They come out of the game, out of the timeout. What happens? Big sack, 4th and long. Timeout. They play Sandstorm again. The crowd goes fucking crazy again. They get off the field. It's a top 5 win. At the time, only the 2nd or 3rd in school history. And next thing you know, now Sandstorm's their thing. But that was the night when Ole Miss visited back in 2009. That was the night that Sandstorm was actually born. And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's freaking awesome.
Oh, well, I'd say that was informative and fun. If you agree, please hit the like button, sub, and we'll see you next time for some more snaps.